And welcome back over to the inaugural Cover One. I am your host this year, James Bouligny, with my co-hosts, Ryan Chadwick. Say hi, Chadwick.
How's it going, guys?
And Paul Harris.
Hey, good to be here.
All right. Before we get into it, we're going to get to our title sponsor, Whataburger. That's right, moving up in the world. Cover One is brought to you by Whataburger. I just had one of the new Dr. Pepper milkshakes, and it's the best thing I've tasted this week. Go try a Dr. Pepper milkshake now at any Whataburger near you, with 4 convenient locations in town, including their newest location at 5855 Sherwood Way. All right, and we're just going to get right into it. We're going to start off with our games of the week. We're starting off with Central here against Abilene. Chadwick, go ahead and just tell them about Central, man.
Well, the Bobcats football season is finally here, and they're going to open up week 1 at home against an old school rival in Abilene High. Central and Abilene High haven't played each other the last couple of years after the last district realignment a few years ago. And, of course, Abilene High has dropped down to 5A, so this will be another fresh look at a fun matchup headed into this year. Now, Central finished 1-9 last year, not exactly where the Bobcats wanted to be, but they return. Newcomer of the year, Christian English under center. New head coach Mark Smith is going to take this Bobcat team in a new direction, and I'm excited to see what the Bobcats bring to the table. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a tough debut for Coach Smith. Abilene High is number 8 in the state. They went to the state quarterfinals last year. So, that defense is going to be tested right off the bat. Central's defense struggled last year. Abilene High's got some explosive guys. Wide receiver Rylan Bradford, he's committed to UTEP. So it'll be interesting to see just how far Central's come along, when they take on Abilene.
Yeah, and they also have Braden Henry back there at running back. He played some quarterback and just kind of a Swiss Army knife for Abilene. So, but that Central defense was real young last year, so you do have more experience over there, and they brought back Mason Van Sickle. So, Jack, what do you think about this one?
I think that the very young defense that it was a year ago that allowed more than 40 points a game is going to be tested early, but I do think now with a little bit of tweaks to how Central's offense is going to run, we still don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I would assume that they're going to slow the tempo down a little bit to give that defense more of a break so they don't constantly have to be out on the field. Because, it's great when your offense scores fast, but it puts your defense in a bad position, especially when they're the ones that are struggling.
All right. Paul, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, Abilene High, their quarterback and their wide receiver are both members of the state qualifying sprint relay last year. So, ton of speed on the field that Central's going to have to deal with, too.
Yeah, no, Abilene's a good team, and that's kind of how we have it picked out. Chadwick went Central, I went Abilene, Paul, you went Abilene. Our new guy, Nick in Lubbock, went Abilene. Lucas went Central, Ernesto went Abilene, and Scott went Abilene. So, Chadwick kind of stacked the box against you there.
You know me, I'm always going to pick my Bobcats.
Absolutely, yep. And we're going to hear a quick word from Angelo Bolt, and we'll be right back. Since 1994, Angelo Bolt Industrial Supply has served the Concho Valley for 30 years and counting. Angelo Bolt is the go-to place for fasteners, power tools, air compressors, safety equipment, and everything in between. Chances are Angelo Bolt will always have what you need when you need it, and on that odd chance they don't have exactly what you're looking for, they'll find it fast. No request is too big or too small for Angelo Bolt. Located at 808 Warehouse Road, where customer service is their top priority. Thank you, Angelo Bolt, for bringing our coverage of all things sports in the Concho Valley.
And welcome back, everybody. Now, this year is a little bit different in the fact that we have expanded our coverage to the South Plains area. We are also covering some big country schools, and in that, one of those schools that we'll be covering heavily this year is one of Central's rival District 2-6A opponents, the Friendship Tigers. Now, the Tigers were a playoff team last year, ran up against South Lake Carroll in the playoffs, and we all know how West Texas teams do against those Metroplex schools, so that's where their season ended, but they open up the season against another very talented opponent this year. Just kind of see what the offense looks like post what their offense was a year ago. Now, Byron Nelson lost all of one game last year, and that was to South Lake Carroll in the third or fourth round of the playoffs. So it's definitely going to be one of those that Friendship's going to get hit in the mouth early, and they're really going to have to see what they're made of going up against a talented opponent. Now, that game is at a neutral site. It's not going to be in Lubbock or in the Metroplex. It's actually going to be held at Abilene Wiley Stadium there in Abilene. But, man, that's going to be a fun one to watch.
All right, and moving on to Cristobal and El Dorado. This is the Battle of 277. El Dorado lost their head coach. Chad Huddle went back to Cahoma to be offensive coordinator. They promoted the defensive coordinator, Robledo, to head coach. And they have the preseason Dave Campbell's defensive MVP and Eliza Hernandez at running back and linebacker. You got big offensive line. You're going to be in the trenches. And I kind of think the same from Cristobal, don't you, Paul?
Yeah, Cristobal brings back just about everybody. And, El Dorado's moving from the beer to the spread. So it'll be interesting to see, how that adjustment goes for them. This has been a good rivalry over the years. They've split, I believe, the last 20 meetings. El Dorado won last year, but with everybody's Cristobal's got coming back, I really feel like the gap's going to be closed, and it should be a really close game this year.
Yeah, they have kind of the Mason deal. They return their entire offensive line, their quarterback, and their running back. So, yeah, they have more experience than Cristobal, and El Dorado's going to be really good, too. I think Dave Councilman picked second in that district behind Wink. So there's high hopes down there in Sliker County. But moving on to Very Best and Zephyr. Zephyr is ranked Very Best. It's in Very Best. Very Best does have Bryce Martin back there at kind of a quarterback, Paul?
I think him and Lane Howard are both going to be running backs, I believe.
All right, but I do remember Bryce Martin was a pretty talented player for them last year. And Zephyr is ranked, so there's a reason they're ranked, and it's going to be a good one. We're going to be out there at that one. Moving on to Wall and Mason. Chadwick, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so of course this is another rivalry game. It's the week one of rivalries to start the 2024 season, but it wouldn't be Wall Mason without a little bit of bad blood. Wall looks to avenge that loss that they suffered at the hands of the Punchers last season under a new head coach, under a new offense, and just a new look. And to actually help us break that one down is actually a perfect segue into our next segment. So go ahead and introduce it, James.
All right. We had Coach Guy in studio. Come talk, former Hawks head coach, Coach Guy. I still say Coach Guy, man. It's a hard thing to break after doing it for so long. We had Houston Guy in studio come talk about this matchup and a couple other ones in the Concho Valley. So let's take a look. And welcome back. We are here with our special guest segment, former Hawks head coach Houston Guy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to be here. Glad you guys could have me today.
Ron?
I'm just glad that we got Coach Guy on here. He always has exactly what we need when it comes to all the breakdown of football analysis, just from a coach's perspective. And, Coach, I know you're now on the Wall School Board and not actually in the coaching game, but just go ahead and tell us a little bit about how that transition has been.
Well, it's one of those things. It's been a very easy transition. It's the not having football in your life after you've been a part of it for 30 years. You got to transition out of it. You got to keep busy, and that's really what I've been doing, is trying to stay as busy as possible. Getting elected to represent Wall ISD on the school board has been a blessing and an honor, and we're going to try to move forward and get this school going in the right direction and continue the success that we've had there.
I know, because you still have your son out there, you still have your younger daughter out there too as well. So
yeah.
It's not like, I'm doing this for 1 year.
Right. No, I've got kids out there. I've got some ownership there, and so I just want to see it continue to be the school that it always has been.
Right. Oh, and Coach, how's that transition been? You're coach while you're coaching your son on your football team while still supporting your daughter, but now you're just a dad in the stands. How is that different?
Well, sometimes the pressure is quite a bit less if you're in the stands, but when you got kids out there playing, you live vicariously through your kids, and you want to see them succeed and do extremely well. And so I'm nervous for my kids, whatever they're doing, participating. The nervousness is a little bit different when you don't have to worry about 45 other kids out there playing. You're there rooting their team on, and so that's kind of where I am right now.
All right, Coach. Well, let's go ahead and get into what we're here to talk about today. The Wall Hawks hit the road to play the Mason Punchers. It's a rivalry matchup that Mason got the better of Wall last year on, took advantage of a couple turnovers. couple of questionable calls at the 1 yard line, like I know you remember.
Uh-oh.
But let's go ahead and just break that down. What do you think about the Wallhawks' chances against Mason on the road starting week 1?
I like Wall's chances on the road. Mason's going to bring a very talented football team out to the Puncher Dome on Friday night, but so are the Wallhawks. You know, the 2 scrimmages that we've had, we're very impressed with the way they move the ball up and down the field. They're going to continue to play great defense. Coach Slaughter does a great job of preparing those kids and getting them to fly to the football. Coach Launderholm coming in and opening up the offense and transition into more of a spread offense. I think these kids are going to really excel at it. I think they're going to do good. One, you got to stay healthy. That's in every aspect in every sport we play, but they got to stay healthy, and it's one of those things that I think they're going to be very successful. And Friday night, I think it's going to be a great ball game. I think for us, for the Hawks, the trenches are going to be where we win and lose that game. And we're gonna set the tone with our offense and defensive linemen, and that's where it's going to start. And then that'll help open up the perimeter game a little bit more.
Yeah, one thing I'm really excited about is Mason brought back their entire offensive line and their quarterback and their running back, and they're going up against the Wall defense that has just been locked down the past few years.
Yeah,
so I'm really excited to see that matchup, and it's supposed to be raining like hell there. So I'm also excited just to see some good old-fashioned West Texas football in the rain.
Yeah, it could be muddy and sloppy, and I don't know what team that's going to best translate to, but I think the team that can run the ball is going to be the team that wins this ball game. And I do think that Wall's got a fantastic offensive line. I think they got good running backs. They got a scheme that where I think that if they can just get behind those big guys, they're going to get a lot of push and be very successful.
Coach, from a head coach's perspective here, what are the benefits of scheduling these really tough opponents early as opposed to the risk involved to your players when you play such a high-octane matchup? Because I know last season y'all lost Ryan Allen in this game, and he was one of y'all's best defenders. So it's like, is it more of a iron sharpens iron thing, mitigated against the risk of losing talent for the future? Like how do you juggle that?
You really can't worry about injuries as far as a coach's standpoint. You play who's on your schedule, but you try to schedule those games, like you said, iron sharpens iron. And as you get into the season, those kids are they're gonna develop, and they're gonna the strength and conditioning programs are gonna come in and play a big factor as they get into those games. But I think that Wall's got the schedule they have is a very tough schedule. It's a schedule that's going to really complement them once they get in the district and into the playoffs. They're going to have a district that they'll be favored to win, and so as they get into the playoffs, these first 5 ball games will be huge for them going forward and preparing for those deep playoff runs that we're going to have.
Yeah, no, it's not just Mason. We got Brownwood next week, Jim Ned, Sweetwater, Monahans.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all really good programs, and we all know they're good programs. So, yeah, Wall started a good job putting the schedule together as far as getting those tough teams up front to test you for the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. It's I said 5 teams. It's really 6 teams because they had one of their district ball games back out and cancel football, but they got a tough schedule. But I think that talent-wise, they'll be as talented as any team on their schedule, and so I think they're in a good spot.
Right. All right, Coach. Final thoughts. Do you have anything you want to say before we take off here?
I want to appreciate you guys having me in. What an exciting time just to get in here and talk a little football and talk about the surrounding schools. I want to wish luck to all the schools around the area, whether it be Christoval or Central or Water Valley, and good luck to the Concho Valley, and y'all get after it this week.
And, Coach, I will say, too, this won't be the only time we ask you on this year. This is definitely one of those things, hey, you might have a little bit more free time now. Anytime you want to come talk football, you let us know.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank y'all.
For any banking needs, go to Texas Bank. Proven, local, and strong is how customers refer to Texas Bank, one of the most successful banks in the Lone Star State. Texas Bank is a full-service bank with over $2 billion in assets, and they operate in 16 locations from El Paso to Dallas-Fort Worth, including 3 right here in San Angelo, located at 2201 Sherwood Way, 1815 North Chadbourne, and 4206 College Hills. Texas Bank staff are your friends and neighbors.
All right, and now we had the top 5 games that we are going to have people at and that we're going to tonight, but there are other notable games around the state that we really need to take note. With us expanding to the South Plains coverage, that means we're also going to be at Lowry Field tonight for Coronado and Wichita Falls. Now that is an interesting matchup. This is going to be the first time that these two teams face off against each other, and Coronado's really been a part of a rebuild process over the last couple of years. That they have another new head coach this year, and they really look to just turn Mustang football around. I expect this one to be a very good game, and I'm just kind of excited to see how different Lubbock Coronado looks headed into 2024. Both Wichita Falls high schools have really good football teams, and so it's going to be a tough matchup any way you look at it. But yeah, look forward to that one.
All right, and moving on, we got Tahoka at TLCA, San Angelo TLCA. Graduated Lane Honey last year. They moved up to Division, to 3A Division 1, so they are in a murderer's row of a district with Sweetwater, Jim Ned, Clyde, Breckenridge, Comanche. Yeah, it's going to be a tough district. So these pre-district games are really important for TLCA to get these guys up to speed. Got a new head coach who is ready to take it and take control and take over.
Well, I think Tahoka's a fair matchup too.
Yeah.
Just considering what TLCA is about to face, it's always important to know, like, you can test yourself early, and I'm not calling Tahoka a bad football team by any means, but what I am saying is you want to make sure you got all those kinks worked out by the time district rolls around. So this will be an excellent opportunity to see what TLCA looks like with a new quarterback, with a couple new running backs, and with guys on the outside looking to score a lot of points.
All right, and Paul, we're moving on to Erie County and Buena Vista.
Yeah, this is a great 6-man game. Buena Vista is number 10 in the state. Erie County is number 19. They played last year. Buena Vista won 46-42. Buena Vista brings back just about everybody. Erie County had some significant losses, but they've got some great players coming back, and starting with Parker Posey, second-team All-State linebacker. So I expect this to be another close game.
Yeah, I went out there that Midnight Madness for Erie County, and I asked Parker Posey, "Hey man, what do you think about them not picking y'all to win y'all's district?" And he said they're disrespecting us. So I like that attitude from the kid. And I asked him if I could quote him. He said yes. So we're covered there, everybody. But we have another word from a sponsor coming up, and we'll be right back.
It's our giant tag sale.
Giant tags plus hail means one thing: Giant Tag Hail Sale prices. Right now, during our Giant Tag Hail Sale, you can get a brand new 2024 Ford Explorer XLT for just $32,977. But hurry, these are selling fast. Our Giant Tag Hail Sale at Jim Bass Cars and Trucks, Houston Hart at Arden Road, or shop 24/7 at bassbunch.com.
Now, typically, Cover 1 has always been all about West Texas high school football, but this year we are adding a new segment into our weekly show during the pregame show, and that is our West Texas college football teams, specifically the Angelo State Rams and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Now, Angelo State kicks off 2024 after a disappointing finish last season where they finished 7-3. You would think that's a great record, right? Well, it wasn't good enough to get them into the playoffs, and that team has used that playoff miss as an opportunity to train hard this offseason, and they are chomping at the bit, ready to go. We've talked to Coach Gersh several times already during training camp just to see how the guys are feeling, and he says the defense is going to be mean, their offensive line is big, his running backs are ready to go, and his wide receiver core is one of the most talented wide receiver cores he's ever had. So look forward to the Angelo State Rams as they play tonight. Usually play on Saturdays, but they're playing tonight against Fort Hays in Kansas. That should be a pretty good matchup. It should be a great measuring stick to see where the Rams are going to be moving forward. Paul, I know you've also talked to Coach Gersh. Just give me your overall thoughts on the Rams matchup.
I think the Rams are really under the radar with how good they're going to be this year. They missed the playoffs, and so, they're not in the top 25 in one poll. They're at 24 in another. But, they've got a bunch of guys coming back. Defense in particular, Gersh was really excited about what they had on the defensive side of the ball. And, they've got some new non-conference tests this year with Fort Hays State and Emporia. They're two teams from Kansas that'll be in their region next year. So it's kind of an early look at, these teams that they'll be competing with for playoff spots in the coming years. But I really have high hopes for this ASU team. I guess the main question is really just a quarterback. If they can find, because they have to have a new quarterback this year, if they can find somebody that can hold down the fort there, I really think the Rams will be back in the playoffs and contending for a conference title.
All right, and the other team that we're going to be covering, like I know, James, you always hear me talk about my Central Bobcats. Well, this is also my Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Oh.
I'm a homer for the Red Raiders. I graduated from there. I'm always going to be rooting for them. But they actually kick off their season hosting the Abilene Christian Wildcats at the Jones AT&T Stadium in Lubbock. And lucky enough for us, I actually was approved to cover Texas Tech football this year, so I will be the one on the field bringing y'all all the highlights and action from that matchup. Now, Abilene Christian brings a familiar face to the table, former Texas Tech and Central Bobcats quarterback Maverick MacGyver. He actually is under center at the helm for the ACU Wildcats, and to be honest, he's been playing great over his last couple seasons, and like he played well with ACU last year after he transferred, and he should be able to put up some numbers against Texas Tech's defense that actually is improved from a year ago. But at the end of the day, I do think this is one matchup that the Red Raiders should just kind of roll over. And honestly, the guys out in Lubbock need to do that. They're not really being respected much in the initial Big 12 polls. They were picked to finish 9th out of 16, and this is after Big Brother UT and OU left. This was supposed to be Texas Tech was supposed to be one of the perennial powerhouses in the conference now. So Coach McGuire enters his third year with super senior running back Taj Brooks. He's already on the Doak Walker preseason award list. He's not quite on the Heisman list yet, but he is being looked at as one of the best running backs in the nation. The return, Baron Morton under center. If he can stay healthy, I think this Red Raider team is going to be a team definitely to contend with. And I say even a dark horse contender for the new 12-team format in the playoffs headed into this college football postseason.
All right, moving on to our picks for this week. Abilene at Central, already spoiled in this show, but Chadwick picked Central. James, Paul, Nick, Ernesto, and Scott all picked Abilene, and Lucas picked Central. Moving on to Wall and Mason. Chadwick, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so in the Wall and Mason matchup, it's kind of like the Central Abilene High matchup. I'm pretty sure that Lucas and I are the only ones who picked Wall. Everyone across the board is going with the punchers out there in the modified puncher dome with no press box right now.
They got deer stands out there.
Right. Well, I mean, they're deer blinds. They work, I guess. But moving on.
Some of the schools I've been to.
Moving on to the El Dorado Cristobal match. Go, James.
All right. Kind of split here. This is the Battle of 277. Both really good teams. Chadwick, Paul, Lucas, and Ernesto all picked Cristobal. Paul, Nick, and Scott picked El Dorado in this one. It's just going to be a good game, and it's always a good game to kick the year off with. Moving on to Byron Nelson and Friendship, Chadwick.
Now, Byron Nelson pretty much deserves to be treated as a perennial juggernaut. That's what they've been the last couple of years. And Friendship graduated a very talented quarterback that's now a member of the Kansas State Wildcats. So, needless to say, I'm pulling for the Tigers because I always want District 2-6A besides Permian to do well. But I think pretty much everyone besides Ernesto is actually going Byron Nelson in this matchup.
And going on to Very Best and Zephyr. Again, 6-man matchup. Zephyr's ranked. Very Best has a couple really good returners coming back. Chadwick went Zephyr, Paul went Very Best, Nick went Zephyr, Lucas went Zephyr, Ernesto went Very Best, Scott went Very Best, and I went Very Best as well.
So mixed bag again.
Repping the Concho Valley there.
Yeah.
And that about does it for our pregame show. Final thoughts, Chadwick?
Want to introduce a new varsity football team to the Texas high school football season. Not even just season, just overall. The Lubbock Cooper Liberty Patriots. Now, this is a new high school that has only been in existence for a little bit over a year now. Last season, their football team they were too young. Like, they could not put together a varsity schedule. The oldest person on their team was a sophomore last year, and so they played a complete junior varsity schedule. This year, they're all juniors and sophomores and freshmen. Still no seniors on that team, but they are playing a varsity schedule this year in 4A football. Now, I talked to Coach Sexton last week after the scrimmage, and he says they still have some work to do, but they do think that they have the talent that they can develop to be one of those perennial powerhouses in 4A in the upcoming seasons. And they play New Home at New Home to start the season. And the funny thing about this, James, is they don't even play a home game until week 5 or 6 because their home stadium isn't even finished yet. Yeah. So it'll be a good test against a good team because New Home always knows how to play ball. They're one of the better 3As in the area. So welcome to Texas high school football, Lubbock Liberty, and we. I definitely will be covering you all in the future, but I look forward to see what y'all can do.
Did you say 3As? Because they're 2A.
Oh, they're
But
2A?
it's okay,
Hey, that's fine. Hey.
They have a good quarterback, too.
They're so good, I assume they were a 3A.
All right, Paul, moving on to Lakeview and Fort Stockton. Final thoughts?
Yeah, Lakeview, they're coming off a 1-9 year. They're playing way out in Fort Stockton to start the season. They prepped with some tough scrimmages against Sweetwater and Comanche. And Fort Stockton was 9-2 last year. They're a tough opening game. Lakeview's got quarterback Austin Perez back, and when he was under center last year, they had a few really big offensive showings. So if he can stay healthy, and I think that Lakeview's got a chance to surprise some people.
All right, and moving on to my final thoughts. Sonora, Miles, both have new quarterbacks under center. Hayden Book is gone. He graduated from Miles. In is Liam Yancey. Coach Wilhelm is extremely high on this guy. Sophomore, and the guys have his back. They're in Sonora, got a bunch of speed all over the field, and Castillo's taking over at quarterback, and he is, he's really. Weston told me he's really embraced the job. It's his job, and he's really taking it upon himself to be the guy, and he is a really good athlete too. So I could see them, sending him out wide and putting another quarterback back there doing some crazy things. Do you expect them to have a couple tight ends in, to help with the offensive line? And they have a nasty offensive line this year. Coach Weston gave me a quote I won't say, but he's really excited about the offensive line.
So, James, could this one get ugly?
Oh, I don't think so, man. I think this is a good matchup. I think this is two teams who are extreme, who have they're very similar. They graduated. Obviously Butron and DeLuna graduated from Sonora. Book is gone, so they have new faces in places on the field that are important. And I think it's just gonna be a really good game overall. Don't sleep on this Miles team, man. Just because, I know Book was the big name out there, but they still have Tevin Mead, Dylan Medina, Devin Medina, Cooper Ellison. Cooper Ellison against Dylan Ford is gonna be the matchup of probably the week. Those are probably two of the better, Ellison's one of the better receivers. Ford's one of the better defensive backs out there in the area. So I'm really excited about this one. I wish I could go.
Funny you should mention that, though. I was actually saying that it might get ugly, like Miles drops 100 on Sonora. Is that possible?
No, I think this is going to be like a 35-34 game.
I like that.
I'm excited for it. But moving on, this has been our inaugural Cover1 show. For my co-host, Ryan Chadwick, Paul Harris, this has been James Bouligny.